If you want, we can go live at 7. There's a timer for like a minute left.
Okay, and I'll start the space. Oh, can you guys see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just practicing the scene changes here. Oh, hi. We got some new people on Zoom joining. Hi, Jennifer and Kurt. Welcome. And Jennifer.
Evening, everybody.
Let's see if you can see each other on... can you guys see the Zoom screen?
Yep.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Hi, this is Jennifer.
Hi, welcome. Okay, is the YouTube stream working now?
Okay, 1 second.
Oh,
So,
good. Looks like it's working.
Yep. YouTube is working.
Okay, now...
Hi, Mary. Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
I'm just seeing if the audio is working.
So the Twitter space is up now, so we'll get started. We're just gonna wait for that to build, hopefully. Okay, so welcome everybody to the launch meeting of Raven, the CleanAir Map. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to just go over quickly what the history behind it, what sort of motivated us to build it, and we're gonna go over how we built it and how to use it. We're going to make the URL public now, and so you can log in and start playing around with it. So hopefully, it doesn't melt the servers, but we'll find out. That's a great thing to learn as we go along. So looks like the Twitter space is building up. So anyone who wants to, raise your hand, come up on stage and talk about it, go ahead. But we'll go over the first part of the presentation. You can view the live stream link on the thread that we posted yesterday on the Raven account or on my account. And that maybe, Mazama, you can tweet out the YouTube link from the Raven account as well. Okay. So I'm just going to invite some co-hosts onto the Twitter space. Okay. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming to our introductory meeting. We're gonna hopefully have these meetings twice a week. We want to build momentum for this. This is a very important project, really, to ensure that every indoor space in this country, around the world, has clean and fresh air. This is a cause that transcends boundaries. COVID-19, unfortunately, is going to be with us for a while. Many of us are now facing a second pandemic with monkeypox, which also has airborne potential. So it even enhances the importance of fighting it off with airborne precautions. So I'll tell you a little bit about my personal journey through this. I was, a quiet emergency doctor. I went through school. I did some volunteer work overseas, and worked, did my things. I've seen hundreds of thousands of patients in my career. I got bitten by the startup bug a few years ago. Built a couple of things that didn't work out, and everything was going rosily fine until the COVID-19 outbreak. And I'm talking to a friend who's passing through China, and I send him a little warning. Look out for this funny virus while you're passing through Wuhan. And what happened after that, we all know, we had that warning period, January, February, where the world really didn't do anything, even though the Chinese were telling us what was up. And, when you looked at authorities here, they really told us to, there's nothing to worry about. It was kind of, nothing really happened until the very last minute, and then it was too late. And a lot of us kind of feel like the same thing's happening with monkeypox at the moment. So what happened was, I think it shook my faith, and a lot of faith, I'm sure, on your side, in the people who are in charge, who really often don't know what they're doing or are politically constrained to do from doing the right thing. And so this leaves community engagement and action from groups like ours. I was a medical student during the first SARS outbreak. This is me wearing my N95 in 2003. And then I saw one of Canada's first COVID patients back when it was called nCoV-2 or whatever. And I was scared out of my mind both times. And that kind of motivated me to get involved in advocacy and getting more involved in fighting, the claims that a lot of this stuff is inevitable, that injuries are inevitable. I had a baby. We had a baby at around the time of when the COVID pandemic started. And then I helped form a group called Conquer COVID-19, which helped bring PPE. It teamed up with Ryan Reynolds and Haley Wickenheiser just to get PPE to frontline workers. There's a lot of support from the community there, and that was something that showed community action can really work faster than our government, which can often be slow off the mark. I helped co-found a group called Mass for Canada. A lot of the members are here at the meeting today and will speak as well, and are helping to moderate the Twitter space. And this was a group where a lot of us were just looking at in 2020 things just getting worse and worse. There was a lot of reticence on the part of politicians and public health officials to really do anything about it. And after a sustained campaign involving maps to show where mandates were, media interviews, recruiting specialists, we got 70% of Canada covered with mask mandates by the fall of 2020. And if you look at the numbers now, Canada has had 1/3 of the deaths of America. It's still not amazing, but compared to most Western countries, we did a lot better. It could have been better, but the community action showed that it can make a difference that way. We moved on to trying to track cases in schools, trying to push for ventilation awareness, which is ongoing, and this app is part of that effort. Also in advocating for rapid tests, people, especially officials, thought it was crazy that people would be able to test at home, that they wouldn't know what to do with the tests. But 2 years later, this is an important part of our lives and helps us reduce risk. So that's how far advocacy can go. And I think I call it the zeitgeist. Each one of you and groups like this have the potential to shift society. Media narratives can be sort of help pushed along to try to get more attention to causes like this. Politicians, they have short attention spans. They want to know how they'll win the next election. Academia, a lot of people stuck in their ways, and you kind of have to push them along in many ways. And then public opinion comes along with that. So with the right attitude and with constant good faith science-based advocacy, you can really make a difference, and I think we will with this. There's a lot of inertia. It's really hard to change the direction of society. There's a lot of bias to stick with the way things are always done. But we are living in unprecedented times. We are living in a time when, I have my father's in his 80s. He does not remember ever going through anything like this. I don't think anyone in living memory has been through, 2 viruses, inflation, economic troubles, wars in different parts of the world. This is an unprecedented time, and it requires community action like ours. So I'll tell you, I was actually working before the pandemic on an app to try to get Trump out of my Twitter feed, and it was to build sort of a social media browsing tool to put together podcasts, Twitter streams, email lists. But what we did is we repurposed the code for that. That code is still there, and you can play around with it if you want, to try to lower your risk of airborne spread of COVID-19. And basically, this is a great infographic from Zero COVID Thailand. You want your atmospheric CO2 level to be in your indoor space less than about 800. And the 420 is the atmospheric level, but 800 you want it to be below that. That means the air is being cycled out of the space that you're in. Above that, there's a lot of risk that you could inhale infected aerosols from someone else. So we built the map to help you show you. To help show you where these spaces with good ventilation are. So the volunteers that we recruited, and hopefully you'll join on the app, can tag the space, and we'll go over quickly how to do that in a quick tutorial. So the URLs are here if you want to take a look yourself. You can log in and make an account, and we'll go over in a few minutes how to do that. We want to build a global movement out of this using these twice weekly meetings. there's been a lot of uptake from our presentation so far. Media has been eager to talk to us about this. We have been, a lot of reception from people. Basically, it gives people something tangible you can do to make spaces safer indoors. What you can do is contribute to CO2 readings, get people around you talking about it. Have a bias for action. Don't assume that your elected leaders or your officials know about this or are aware of this. You'll need to educate them because it's not, even in those circles, is well known. Put social media posts, blog posts. The more you do, the more you get media attention for your work and the more inroads you make with decision makers. And hopefully, maybe we can include this in Google Maps. Maybe that's something that can be done. Maybe, every business will have CO2 monitors showing the quality of ventilation in their buildings. And it makes a difference. Like I've been hammering along with my colleagues on social media, and I get invited on local news in Canada regularly to talk. And I just basically say the same things I've been saying for 2 years. And you will get that same opportunity as well in your areas as well. We're going to do weekly meetings to try to accommodate as many time zones as possible. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. We have an active Discord and WhatsApp groups. We'll send you the link. You just need to register through the link in the Twitter thread. And we want to try to get to regional and country leads over time. Any other ideas, get in touch with us. Spread the word. That we have a lot of tech issues. We're hammering down bugs every day. It's something that was built from scratch. So there's going to be a lot of flaws. We didn't use an existing platform, which honestly doesn't really give us the flexibility. So we had to build everything from the ground up. For CO2 monitors, we're going to try to do a crowdfunding to try to raise money to buy CO2 monitors. We're going to look at doing bulk buying of them. There's 2 providers that have shown that they can build reliable, cheap CO2 monitors, and we'll try to get those out to people. Feedback is really important in this. Thank you everyone for joining in. We're going to go through some questions and comments on the YouTube, on Zoom, and on the Twitter space. And yeah, just follow us on Twitter. And then, so why don't I just take some questions. So I'm just going to, actually, first things first, I'm going to go through a quick tutorial on how the app works. So this is what the app looks like when you load it. So it's focused on Toronto right now because that's where I am right now. Green is areas with less than 800. Yellow is 800 to 1,000. Red is over 1,000. So if I want to let's say add a location, I'm going to add, this is the local airport in Toronto. So I'm going to add a reading in Terminal 1, and I'm going to say it's 650 parts per million. So this is the reading that you're going to see from your CO2 monitor. This is the AirNet 4. I'm going to say masks are required because they're still required in Canada, thank God. And I'm going to save it. And then it will create the location in the airport. Right there. So there's my spot. And I just posted it. And then I can add further readings. I can add, let's say I measured somewhere else. And I'll add a second reading there. Oh, there's a little bit of an error. We'll fix that. But that'll be fixed. So yeah, you can add subsequent readings. You can look at other readings. Eventually we'll allow commenting on different readings. And to log in, you can sign in basically here, and you can log in with a variety of different techniques. Using Apple, Google, text login, or email. Okay, so why don't we take some questions?
Recording in progress.
Oops. Okay, does anyone have... So the Twitter space doesn't have sound. Well, that's not good. Let me fix that. I apologize. I'm so sorry that we did not have sound until this point. Why don't we... did you guys see the YouTube presentation? Okay, so I'm going to ask I'm going to bring up some speakers here, and then we can have a discussion on Twitter Spaces. Okay. Okay. So can you guys hear me now? Okay.
I think that there are some questions here.
Okay. Why don't we address the questions?
So maybe we'll go Zoom first, then YouTube, and then we'll go to Twitter Spaces if that's okay.
Okay. Why don't you take the questions and I will try to debug the Twitter space.
Okay. I think there were a couple of people that raised their hands on Zoom. If you can please kindly come up on stage. Any questions over here?
Okay, why don't you
So we have a question on YouTube. Maybe we'll start off that. Huge congratulations on the launch. How do you prevent bad actors from submitting false readings?
Okay, so what we have is we have moderation features built into the app. You can actually apply to moderate when you're on. We're hoping to turn on a lot of the volunteers into moderators, so in your region or your zone, and then we're going to keep a close eye on every new reading that goes up, just to make sure. Like we've tried to build that consciousness into the app from day one.
Thank you. We have a question from Jenny here. How do we get to the app? Do we download it on?
Not yet. I'm going to. This is the URL for the map. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Okay. This is the URL. We're going to have iOS and Android apps soon. We just wanted to get the major features done, which was done this week, hopefully.
Amazing. What questions? I think that might be it. I don't see any questions on YouTube or Zoom.
Okay.
If there are any, you can feel free to email us at admin@ravenapp.org.
Oh, why don't we put that up? I'll just put it up on the slides. So this is our email address if you have any issues. A lot of you got emails from this URL already.
So we actually have a question on YouTube, Dr. Lada. Buildings usually have a huge space. However, the CO2 monitor can only measure small portions of the space. How can the reading accurately reflect the air quality?
That's a very good question. What some of the monitors have ways to record graphs, so you can output the graph of the space that you're in. Like sort of the AirNet has that. We're going to allow image upload soon. We're just working on that feature now. One thing you can do is there's a text box where you can describe. Like what I would do is probably put the highest value that you find in that space, and then in the text in when you post your result, put like what the readings were in different parts. And I think other people can comment on that and then post their own readings in that space. So I think that's probably the best way to do that right now.
If I could just say something about that.
Thank you.
Oh, Joey, welcome.
Hi, good to be here. So I'm an HVAC engineer. So most spaces, especially in Canada, have what's called mixing ventilation. So the air is overall well mixed in the space. It highly depends space to space, but usually if it's one big room or one room, overall the measurement of CO2 in some place within the room it's not going to vary significantly throughout the room. And what it would vary would be within normally what a carbon dioxide monitor would have as an error anyways. They're not perfectly accurate, but they're pretty good. So where it's located in the room shouldn't be too much of a problem unless it's located, let's say, right beside a window or right beside someone who's breathing on it. So that would give you bad readings. But overall, it's not as much of a concern.
Amazing. Thank you.
That's really good information. I guess if it's different parts of the same building, I guess you can put different readings in different parts of the building as different points on the map. You could do that as well.
We've got more questions coming on YouTube. One from Douglas. Do you plan to or have the means to connect the internet directly to the app?
Yes. So we're working on. We're going to be working with one of our partners to develop API access. So we're looking at hopefully real-time uploads. It's going to take some doing. It's not going to happen immediately, but in the next few months, that's going to be a priority, because what we want to see is if you're thinking of going to the movies, right? You want to check at home. What is the CO2 level? Right now, is it safe for me to go? If you're going to any public space like a mall or something, so that's something we'll need to have, and that's a priority for us. We have a feature roadmap that we've published. We're going to put it on Twitter. So if there's new suggestions for features, we'll put it on the roadmap, the product roadmap.
Amazing, thank you. One from Denim. Do you have any use of new UV/hydroxyls? And will your app integrate/use data from building IoT?
Yeah, exactly. Similar, like what we mentioned before, like UV, like that's upper room UVGI, I guess, right? I think we will include it once it becomes more common. I think it's an underused form of air cleaning that really needs to spread, and I think that's a very good idea. I think we'll add it to our feature roadmap. I think if a space is using ultraviolet air cleaning.
Just to add on to that, they said hydroxyl. So there's a technology with ultraviolet called photocatalytic oxidation, which releases hydroxyl radicals into the air. It's not a recommended technology. It's a form of electronic air cleaning. The sensors probably won't pick up on that. So that's a separate thing which individual spaces might do, but overall it's not a recommended thing to do. It's different than upper room ultraviolet light.
What's wrong with it? Like, what are the flaws with it?
So it's a form of electronic air cleaning. There's a lot of these technologies, whether it's ionization, bipolar ionization, plasma wave. You probably see it sold with these HEPA filters, and it essentially puts ions or chemicals or molecules or radicals out into the air. And the hope is that there's some chemical reaction that could destroy viruses or make them fall to the ground, things like that. But the evidence that it actually helps is not very strong. And there is evidence that they create byproducts which are bad for you. So right now, air quality experts recommend against this. One is ultraviolet photocatalytic oxidation, which creates these hydroxyl groups, radicals.
Well, that's a good reason to avoid that then. What do you think the prospects of upper room UV is, though, in the West? I know there's a lot of interest in China on this, but what's the prospect of it coming here?
So right now, the first set type of UV company was approved by Health Canada, but that wasn't upper room UV. It was using for cleaning surfaces. So they just started approving UV devices. I know there's a few companies that have approval in. They're trying to get their stuff approved. It hasn't happened yet. I don't know when it's going to happen. I hope it gets approved. But currently, I don't think there's any place that's legally allowed to sell upper room UV in Canada.
Is there anything in the US?
Yeah, there's tons of companies and it's not regulated. So it's a lot easier there.
Oh, okay. I guess there's probably tools for people to distinguish what's a good system and what's not, like in general.
For upper room UV?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You have to know what you're doing. It's not that easy. When you put it in, you're supposed to have professionals check to make sure it's safe. there's a risk with it because you don't want the ultraviolet light to get into the lower room. You want it to remain in the upper room, and every space is different, so it's more complicated. To be honest, it's much more powerful at cleaning the air than ventilation and filtration can be. You could get much higher air change rates and much higher cleaning rates, but it has to be done safely. And if it's done properly, then it is safe, but it needs to be done that way.
So I guess the main safety risk is like visual exposure, inadvertent to the UV. Is that it, or?
Correct. So it's your skin and your eyes. The UVC does not penetrate well into your skin or your eyes, so it could burn the outer layer, but it's not going to cause cancer or anything like that. And the skin cells, I believe, die, and they come off every couple days. So there's no worries of long-term damage that I know of. I spoke with one of the experts on this. He said no one's ever been, permanently damaged from this, but tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people have died over the years from airborne diseases. So in the big scheme, the health and safety trade-off is in favor of using upper room UV. That there are safety concerns, but it has to be done properly. And if it is, there's no significant safety concerns on the matter. I'm trying to get this into my kid's school, and I'd be very happy if I could get it into my kid's school. I have no worries about my kid being in rooms with upper room UV.
Yeah, that would be something. Looks like we got a new question on YouTube from Douglas. Do you have a way to account for the presence of HEPA filtration? What we did, so I'll just go back to the app. I'll have to sign in again. I shouldn't have signed out. Let's see if I can find. Mazalma, can you share your screen?
So on the slide deck of the video, and there's a video which you can actually show it.
Okay. Sorry, one sec. So what we've done is we've created a way to report what the air changes per hour are with the filtration. There's some tutorial videos here, so probably in this one. So what we have is here, like you can report. You can ask the person of who's the owner of the space that you're in. What generally, if they put HEPA filters, they're probably very proud of the fact they put HEPA filters, and they'll tell you the air changes. I know at the school where my kids go to school, they're very proud that they've gotten 6 air changes an hour, and that was their target for the school year, and it seemed to work. Like not many kids got sick at school; they mostly got sick at home. So that's how you would report that. You'd have to ask them and sort of take it on faith from them or their engineers. If you can try to evaluate independently, but I don't think you can do that without specialized equipment. So let me just close that.
We just have a comment from Jennifer, echoing Joey's statement that Marinette this week. I measured in the Southern Alberta Jubilee Auditorium for 2 different performances, once on the main source center and once on the balcony, and the results were very close.
Okay, why don't we look at that? So we've got, I think these are reports from Julie. These are the kind of reports that you can put in the app. Is that you can put details about how you tried to acquire them and things like that. So this is for multiple users in Calgary. So yeah, like you can put details. We're gonna have over time. We're gonna add more. We're gonna allow you to add pictures. So you can put the telemetry you get from the actual monitors that you can download from the AirNet. One thing I'll also go over is purchasing. One sec. Purchasing monitors too. So we'll go over that in a second. So there are a number that you can purchase. The AirNet is expensive. It's in Canadian dollars. It's about $300 to $400. There are 2 very fairly affordable and high quality sensors. One is from Theatre Caps in Australia. The other is Vitalite. They're both about $70-$80. And we're going to try to do a Kickstarter / GoFundMe to try to raise money, maybe do matching, if we can find a sponsor to do matching funds to get this to as many people as possible. And I think that brings up the point that Alessandro's mentioning. So the theater caps, and I think the Vitalite is available on Amazon. We've had some good experience with the Inkbird Plus, but it's subject to the same problems that any monitor from China has, in which they could take a good sensor and swap it out with a bad sensor, which I think Naomi Wu on Twitter mentioned. So the Temtop is moderate price, but it's very slow. I have this one as well, and it's very slow, and it takes a long time to acquire a reading. So yeah, these two, the Vitalite and the theater caps, are probably the best sensors that you can get for a low price, about 70 Canadian dollars, about 40-50 American dollars. So we have a question from Douglas. On YouTube. So measurement data will presumably age out. Readings from a year ago will not be as relevant. What we're going to do is we're going to try to put a 90-day filter on readings. And so you can view older readings, but 90 days is what will show up on the app to keep it current. So that's going to be implemented as well in the next month or so. Okay, looks like... Oh, there's another one called CO2 Click. So we'll add that as well. I just remembered them. I think they're about 200 Canadian dollars. So it looks like there's a bug on creating profiles that we're gonna fix that hopefully overnight. Thank you for pointing that out. Anyone on the Twitter space want to raise their hand and come up and speak and talk about your experiences with trying to improve indoor ventilation? Anything that challenges that you're facing trying to get people to recognize this, especially your kids going to school or your workplace. We want to create this time to sort of group debug and try to think of strategies on how you can advocate for this. Okay, I think that sorry, I think I couldn't see that's the list. So this is part of a document, sort of the user guide on the app, and we're going to send that out to everybody as well, and we'll post this link as well. Okay, I think that will wrap up then our broadcast. Then we'll have another meeting on Saturday. Sorry, there's one more question. Sorry, go ahead.
What about open air dining and eating undercover?
So open air dining and eating with heaters outside undercover. That's a good question. So there's a few types of ways this can be done. What I've seen is some restaurants will basically create an indoor space outdoors somehow. Like somehow they've managed to do that. It looks like people are having trouble speaking on Twitter Spaces. So what I'll say is you'll have people recreating four walls and a roof, and just you recreate the indoor experience outside. That's not recommended. If you can have multiple walls that are open with heating, it might be less possible in the depths of the Canadian winter, but in some areas with less severe weather, it might be possible. Okay. So someone on Twitter Space trying to talk, saying you can't hear them. Oh, let me... So Cindy, why don't you unmute yourself?
Hi, thanks for hosting this.
Thank you.
I am wondering if anybody is speaking to the universities, specifically U of C. Their current policy in their lecture halls is 2 air changes per hour, which when you get 100, 200 kids, I don't think that's adequate. What's been done there? I'm just wondering if anybody has any information on if they have been approached or where they're getting their guidance from. That's quite concerning.
Is that University of Calgary?
Yes.
I don't know if anyone here can speak to approaching schools. Generally, 2 air changes an hour is extremely low. Like that's 6 I think was the recommendation from ASHRAE, and I think air changes an hour are a very rough measurement. I think the engineers are probably all screaming inside whenever we mention it, so it's a pretty rough measurement. But I think that's pretty appalling and puts a lot of people at risk, unfortunately.
I agree completely, and they seem to be quite proud of that. I went in and looked on their website, and then I actually phoned to find out because my son is starting there this fall, so that's why I have that particular university targeted.
Yeah, if it takes things like letter writing or something like that, that sometimes works. Like the science is not behind them on this, plain and simple. Like they have to understand that especially we're dealing with 2 pandemic viruses now. Both, monkeypox has airborne potential as well. Like this is in their best interest if they want an undisturbed school year to really deal with this.
Do you know, or does anybody here know, has something been done as far as where we have the scientists, the professionals with the background in aerosol science and fluid dynamics and ASHRAE to say, hey, this is inadequate. Where can I refer them besides ASHRAE?
So I could speak to that. I'm currently working. There isn't this in Canada, which is why I set up a indoor air quality advisory group with the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers. So I have these experts together, and we're creating our guidance. I wish I would have been able to do this 2 years ago. I guess I was waiting for our public health agencies to get around to it, and when I realized it wasn't happening, that's when we set it up. So we will have that guidance. There's currently no official guidance within Canada to do this. Now, actually, maybe this might give you a little solace in this fact. So you were talking about it was a lecture hall that had 2 air changes per hour?
That's right, yeah.
Is it like a big room with high ceilings?
There's standard lecture hall. I don't know how high the ceilings are. I suspect relatively high because it's the type of lecture hall with the seating that goes up stair by stair.
Right. So, in all honesty, that really helps make it a lower risk environment. When ASHRAE does the calculations, they don't do it based on the volume of the height. They do it based on the area. And it's not really the volume that contributes to your risk. So air changes per hour is overall a good measurement. ASHRAE, ASHRAE doesn't say 6 air changes per hour. There are places that do. I believe the CDC might, and the state of California does. I know overall 6 air changes per hour is really good. In places with higher ceilings, one, it's much more difficult to get the extra air through, and it doesn't necessarily help. So, for example, a place that has twice the high ceilings and has 3 air changes per hour versus a place with half the ceiling and 6 air changes per hour, the 3 air changes per hour in the bigger room is actually probably safer than the 6 air changes per hour in the smaller room.
Wow.
So I understand, and we should be, I'm not saying you should be bragging about 2 air changes per hour, but the fact that the room is bigger does help lower the risk. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're doing a great job, but just so people could properly assess risk and understand what type of room they're in and how that affects their chances of getting infected.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Joe. He's going in with an aeronet and he'll be masked, but one-way masking only goes so far, who knows, however. Many kids may be masked, and he has plans to kind of sit by the door, thinking that that's probably the safest space, but I'm not sure if there's another space in the lecture hall that you think would be safer.
Yeah, again, the room overall is generally pretty well mixed. If there's a window or a door, then it's probably better to have more of the air that people have not been breathing in. So, yeah, that's probably the better way. It's hard to know which really is the best place to sit, and especially in those types of rooms.
Okay, thank you.
So in those cases, if the with the larger room with lower air changes per hour, Joey, is it would the CO2 level be a better indicator in those cases?
So yeah, that's the other thing. So there does need to be this mitigation in those rooms for this reason. There's an extra risk factor if you could pack a lot of people into those rooms. So you get the fact that it's crowded ends up really increasing risk. The requirements per person in a place like a lecture hall when it comes to ventilation is lower than a place like a classroom. So there's different factors at play. Some of them increase risk, some of them reduce risk.
Oh, makes sense. It's just one factor out of many, but I guess you can get a hint from the I guess from the readings that you get from the air changes per hour plus the CO2 reading and the occupancy. I remember your equation you posted online, like you have 5 or 6 different things that you put together to sort of determine. Okay, so we're inviting up. I think who is coming? Who just raised their hand? I think. Okay, anyone have? Okay, we have another question. So, when will you have AJ on for another session? I think AJ and Dr. Leonardi has been very prophetic about a lot of things. His points really stand. Like, if there's clarification, I think we might schedule another session if he's willing. But really, like the interview that we did back in January has really basically stood the test of time, and we might just do another update with all the evidence that's come in since. So thanks for asking. That interview became a lot popular than I ever expected. Okay, so if there are any other... Oh no, the AirQ monitors on the list are gone. Oh, that's too bad. That's one CO2 monitor that's gone. We'll take that off the list.
So just a comment from Barry that the airnets are being offered by 7 so far, more being added weekly.
Okay. Great. So yeah, we'll stop there. Like we'll take questions on over Twitter, by email. You have the URLs and the email on the screen on the YouTube stream. We'll tweet them out as well. Feel free to log in and join. The username stuff we'll figure out tonight. Go ahead and start posting results if you can. Join us on. We have a very active Discord and a WhatsApp group that we just started. So, yeah, looking forward to working with you all. This is just the start, and I'm so happy that that we can get together and try to do this together. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh, there's a question. I think we're good. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.